Hi everybody, Tom here at Curio Lowesdale Road to talk to you today about my favorite deck I have for Magic the Gathering's format, Premodern. And Premodern is a format that uses cards exclusively legal from 4th edition to Scourge, and it is a very fun format. You might think, isn't that a fixed format where every card that can enter into it is already in it? And technically yes, but the meta is incredibly diverse. There's a whole lot of different decks that vie for competition. There's a very nice rock, paper, scissors element going on. And if you look at the top 8 results from a lot of the major events, it's very, very varied. A lot of cool decks, and people do home brews and unexpected things enter into the meta quite often. And technically, they can always shake up the meta too with a banning or an unbanning. Like recently, they banned the card called Parallax Tide, and that has opened up competitive aspects to other decks that were previously kind of kept down from being mid-tier to top tier by the persistence of that card in a lot of different played decks. So, without further ado, this is my blue-white control with a twist Premodern deck. And I care a lot about aesthetics, so you're going to see a lot of retro foils in here. Starting out with a playset are retro foil Swords to Plowshares, and I've got 2 disenchants in here. I feel like there's a lot of artifacts and enchantments in the meta, even without Parallax Tide. One of the best decks in the format is arguably Stifle Knot, which is Phyrexian Dreadnought plus Stifle or Vision Charm to combo out basically a 1 mana, technically 2 mana because you're playing both spells, 12/12 Trample. And it's an artifact, so you can pop it with one of these guys. And then I've got some board clearing stuff, so I've got 2 Wrath of Gods, 2 Akrama's Vengeance. I like this one a lot. You don't really see it much in blue-white control decks, but I love that in a pinch you can always cycle it, and it's a good catch-all. Destroys artifacts, enchantments, and creatures. So if you're playing against Enchantress, it's a nice board reset. Overall, it's been a card that's tested pretty well for me. And we've got our counter package suite. So we've got counter spells, and then I like spicing it up a bit with unexpected one-ofs. So we've got 1 Forbid, 1 Memory Lapse. Is this altered? No, that's a Judge promo, FNM promo, that kind of thing, yeah. 1 Miscalc, 1 Force Spike, and 1 Teferi's Response, and 1 Mana Leak. And then, got our card draw suite. I'm not doing Standstill, so instead, I'm going all in on Fact or Fiction package, and by all in, I mean a playset of Accumulative Knowledges as well, which is so good with Fact or Fiction. But it's tough to usually find room for all that in the same deck, so I went down to only 1 Impulse, which a lot of these decks play multiple Impulse. And I really love Flash of Insight. This card, generally you only want to play it for its flashback cost. If you're paying it for those like normal costs, I usually only put 3 or 4 mana into it to draw 1 card. But flashback, spending 2 mana to do a better Impulse a lot of the time is pretty nice. It can only exile blue instants, and you got to be careful about whether or not you want to actually exile your Cumulative Knowledges. But if you're playing in a mirror against someone else playing a Cumulative Knowledge or like Psychotog or something, and they go to cast theirs and you have some in your bin, technically they have to be careful if they're playing around this card, because you could exile your Cumulative Knowledges in response and they end up not getting as much potency out of their own Cumulative Knowledge. But that's like a extra chess movie. So the reason I asked earlier to myself if that Memory Lapse was altered is because I have an altar card in here. And this is a foil peel transfer altar of Humility, not normally available in foil. So there's this artist that I love who I've commissioned for a lot of my foil peel altars in my decks of various different formats I play. And what he does is he takes the foil and he peels it off of another card and he splices it up and transfers it onto here. He's got some different techniques for how he does it. His name is Kev Altered, K-E-V Altered, and he's one of the best foil peel transfer altarists in the world. So if you're ever curious about his stuff, just do an Instagram search or a Google search for his name. Humility is a card I absolutely love in this deck. I feel like it's really, really good against the format, although it has one strange drawback, and that is if you're playing against Stifle Knot, They can just pay 1, put down their 12/12 trample as a no ability 1/1. Its ETB trigger does not happen, so they don't need to bother stifling it or vision charming it. It's a 1/1, but then if they have like Chain of Vapor or something like that, or some other kind of like way of getting rid of this, they can remove this after they've resolved their Dreadnought, and now it's a 12/12 again. So it's a little bit of a double-edged thorn in that matchup, and maybe not worth it unless you know you've got answers for just the Chain of Vapor. But they have so much counter magic backup that I would almost rather not play this unless they already have 1 or 2 Dreadnoughts on the field, and then kind of treat it as like extra removal. All right, so my threats in this deck: 3 Decree of Justice. And they're all designed to work roughly pretty well underneath Humility. And then 1 Spicy Boy, which is my second favorite card in this deck because Humility is the first favorite, and that's another Spirit. And I love this guy. I played with this card so much back in the day because Legacy Pox was one of my favorite formats back when favorite decks back when I played Legacy. And this is just a vanilla 2/2, but it comes back from your graveyard onto the battlefield every turn as long as it's the only creature in your graveyard. And he happens to be the only actual creature card in my entire deck, so he's always going to come back. And it works pretty well under Humility. It's just a 1/1, but you trade with another 1/1, it just keeps coming back. And Humility, essentially, you're just going to whittle them down with 1/1s anyways. So Humility does not shut off his ability to come back because that's a trigger from your graveyard, and Humility only affects things that are already in play. And then my other threat packages are my lands. So I got 4 Mishra's Factories and 2 Fairy Conclaves. And utility lands, instead of 2 Dust Bowls, I went with 1 Dust Bowl and 1 Core Haven. I like Core Haven a lot. It can stop a Phyrexian Dreadnought attack, which is kind of cool. And because I'm playing 4 Wrath effects, I like the idea of encouraging them to play more total threats, because if they just have 1 threat, the Core Haven can keep stopping it, then I can be like, yeah, you're not going to get past this unless you play another threat. And then suddenly my Wrath effects become a 2-for-1 when I might have needed to use them as a 1-for-1. And then we've got At Our Carways, Coastal Towers, Flooded Strands, 2 extra spicy ones, and the basic lands. So I haven't had much opportunity to play this deck, and I really want to play it more. It's a little bit untested, and the sideboard, oh yeah, let me show you the sideboard. The sideboard is kind of gimmicky. I've got, I don't know, it's all theory. So I've got 2 Submerge, if I'm playing against somebody that has Force. I had these instead of Phyrexian Furnace because Phyrexian Furnaces are surprisingly hard to find right now and they're super pricey. But I almost want to just bite the bullet, pay like $10 for a Phyrexian Furnace, because I don't think we have any in any of our shops. And maybe even main deck 1, because I don't know, that card seems like it's just so strong in this format. I love this card against Enchantress. It's no new enchantments can be played. And the only other enchantment I play is Humility, so I can easily just fit this right in there, and then they have to have an answer for it. But usually their answer for like problem enchantments are Aura of Silence and Seal of Cleansing, which are both, they can destroy enchantments, but they're enchantments themselves. I don't know how often I would expect Enchantress to actually play Disenchant, so this might be like a real clutch counter to that entire deck. Got another Teferi's Response, in case they have a lot of like ports, Rishadan ports, wastelands, that kind of thing. Hibernation, just kind of testing it. I don't know if it'll be good enough, but might be great against elves. Powder Keg, Misdirection, and Disrupt for the counter magic wars. I think especially potent against Stiflonaut because they just have so much counter magic. 2 Sphere of Laws against any like red deck, burn deck, that kind of thing. And then another Chroma's Vengeance in case I need more removal, and this is also kind of like Enchantress or extra removal, mass removal. All right, so that's my deck. If you ever want to play, let me know. I'd be happy to play. And I might be making another deck. I've been looking at mono black control or mid-range, and I quite like Ravenous Rats into Cabal Therapy as like just a good counter to the meta. You got to know what the name of the Cabal Therapy is, so I need to practice that. And I don't know, Dark Ritual, Bottomless Pit, the Rack, Curse Scroll, that kind of stuff appeals to me. Because I used to love Pox, and maybe I'll play Pox in that deck. I don't know. maybe one pox. Anyways, that's Premodern, and that's my pretty deck. If you've got any extra foils of any of those cards that I don't have yet in foil, I am still hunting for 2 foil Flooded Strands that I'd be happy to trade towards. Feel free to come play. We're looking at trying to get a game night going for it here at the Rosedale store. A lot of our legacy players on our Wednesday night legacies locals to play Premodern in between rounds, and sometimes they hang out after playing Premodern as well. So I've been meaning to stop by and jam some games with them. And in general, we do want to do something for Premodern here. It's a format that's growing for sure in the area. We might start out with like a monthly bigger tournament and then extrapolate from there into weekly events, that kind of thing. So if you're interested in Premodern, we've got a Premodern Discord channel in our Discord, and always feel free to reach out to me and we can line up some games. Okay,